Hello, I'm Mark Pillin, reporting for Finn from Rolls-Royce here in Derby. This is the home of their production for the XWB engine for the Trent engine. This is testbed 80, where they test the engines when they're manufactured, just over the way there. We're here today to listen to the leaders of Rolls-Royce, the leaders of Shell Aviation, and also the leaders of Airbus, to hear about their journey to decarbonisation, the journey to net zero for the aviation business. I asked the industry leaders here, what is the big message that they are trying to get across to the governments, to other industries, and to investors?
So the message is around high levels of ambition. We know that our technology can decarbonise long-distance aviation. We now want to see governments match our technology ambition with their ambitions around policy that's necessary to make this thing work.
So we are looking at COP26 for yet another opportunity to bring the industry together and to start to see governments, airlines, fuel suppliers continuing the ambition of net zero emissions for the industry, the same as we have seen at IATA AGM in Boston earlier on this month.
Airbus as such has a very ambitious goal because we're completely convinced that we can get there and that it's totally feasible. So our target is to have the world's first zero-emission commercial aircraft flying by 2035. But there is no silver bullet, so we need to look at all technologies out there. And towards the COP, our full commitment is there, and we are really willing to be at the forefront and bringing everybody together to do our part into this important goal of decarbonization of the aerospace sector.
Sustainable aviation fuels are not just the flavour of the month. All of the leaders here believe they will have a critical role to play in the industry over the next decades.
And it's also looking at novel technologies and, of course, sustainable aviation fuels, because the technology is there, the fuels are there. We are not using them enough. We are using them by less than 0.1%. And we would need to go to over 60% by 2050.
We want to play our part when it comes to energy transition for the aviation sector. We aim to produce 2 million tons of SAF by 2025. I think this is 10 times that what is currently produced globally, so it's a big step up for the industry. And also we aim to have at least 10% of our sales by 2030 to be at least SAF. I think the other thing that I want to mention is that this comes on the back of a number of changes for Shell. We are transforming our assets towards renewable and energy solutions. We will, as a company, sell 55% less of our traditional fuels by 2030. And again, on the back of some of the announcements on the commitments on SAF, we have also announced our first biofuel plant in the Netherlands, and that plant will be operational in 2024.
In June this year, we said that our new engines that we're delivering today would be compatible with 100% synthetic aviation fuel by 2023. That's engines like the Dreamliner engine sat behind us. But there are a lot of aeroplanes already flying around with engines that are now no longer in production, but they're going to be flying around for another 20 years or so. And what we've announced today is that we're going to make sure that those engines are all compatible with 100% sustainable aviation fuel by 2023 as well.
Well, that's excellent, because that is a huge fleet, as we know. Now, one of the pieces in the energy transition, which I'd like you to just describe how big you feel the energy transition is needed for the whole industry, and especially relating to some of your work around nuclear reactors, where you feel there is an opportunity for Rolls-Royce to get involved.
Yes, I mean the energy transition is something hugely significant. It's affecting all sectors. We play in the transport sector, in the energy sector, in the built environment as well. And wherever we look, there's a need for zero carbon energy. So if I think about sustainable aviation fuel going into an engine like that, if I want to make it synthetically and capture the carbon directly from the atmosphere maybe, all of those operations require energy. And in order for that synthetic aviation fuel to be truly net zero, that energy has to be zero carbon in the first place. And we need a lot of it. And that's where our small modular nuclear reactors come in, because I can put a nuclear reactor next to a synthetic aviation fuel plant that manufactures this synthetic aviation fuel, and the zero carbon energy from the nuclear reactor can be used to power the plant, and we can achieve a truly zero carbon solution. We're talking some billions of pounds, but we're talking this decade. The activity needs to happen this decade, and we can bring those nuclear reactors into use by around about the end of this decade.
Clearly, this whole transition is going to cost billions and billions of dollars. Are investors going to come to the party?
And we do see a lot of willing, full people coming together, and I think it is really about having the investments in all the different sectors in the whole value chain in parallel. So the technologies, the infrastructure, and also the industrialization of actually the manufacturing of the fuels.
Investors can see that this change is going to happen anyway. Companies and businesses, from big businesses like Rolls-Royce making nuclear reactors to provide the power, to people who are creating the hydrogen, to people who are transporting the hydrogen around, to people who are fitting domestic boilers. There's a whole chunk of business opportunity there.
I think, look, this is an industry that needs to transform. We know that the emissions we have today, they're around about 3%. If we do nothing, they will increase to 22%. Society, consumers, you and I will not accept that. We expect the industry to change. And in the face of change, again, we need all parties to come together. I represent the fuel suppliers, but we expect airlines to commit to and signal that they want sustainable aviation fuels. We expect the engine manufacturers to have their engines ready for SAF, and aircraft manufacturers the same. But also we want the government to step in and work with us and the industry to accelerate that journey. By having clear regulation frameworks, possibly having mandates being applied to the industry, and making sure that then you create an investment environment or an environment that is investable from a production perspective, from an infrastructure perspective, and hopefully a better environment for our customers. And again, you and I can fly sustainably in the future.
As we've heard, there is a huge collaborative effort, there's a huge industry effort going on to reach net zero. These industrial behemoths are ready to do it. They're investing, they're asking governments to step up, they're asking investors to come along on the journey, because they think that decarbonisation is critical for the planet, but also it's going to be a business opportunity. They're leading the way for the industry. And don't forget to tune into the Fin network, to wearefin.com, for more on sustainability and, of course, stories from throughout the aerospace world.